Because when we talk about ease and hardship, what everybody really wants to talk about is the hardship. There's all of this ease there, but we're not concerned about that. When the ease comes, it's easy. We don't need to talk about it. But when we're talking about hardship, it becomes very easy for us to think about what that means to us, how this hardship is affecting us, what we're going through. And we have to remember, especially in those moments, that what's really needs to be focused on is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it's not about us. We ask this thing, why is this happening to me? Why do bad things always happen to me? Right? We immediately become extremely, or our instinct is to immediately become extremely self-focused and self-centered and shrink our whole world down just to our own existence. When the point of that hardship is for us to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to do what we were really meant to be doing. So when we talk about this idea of ease and hardship, and then we end up focusing on the aspect of hardship, and then we end up focusing on ourselves, we need to go through that process and force ourselves to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the thing that we're supposed to be doing all along. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets up for us the nature of the world way back before any of us were born, before any of us were, and before even the environments that we're operating in were made. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all of mankind and brought all of mankind together, creates Adam alayhi salam, He draws forth from Adam alayhi salam all of the people that will be born from him. And of course that's all of us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes this pact with us, this covenant. And what's that covenant all about? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alastu bi rabbikum? Am I not your Lord? And it's a fascinating question, because we spend the rest of our lives asking the question, who am I? What am I here for? What's my purpose? It's always about me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that first question that our whole existence is based on, that all of the tests of this world, all of the hardships of this world is based on that first question that we were ever given. It's Alastu bi rabbikum? Am I not your Lord? It's not even phrased, who is your Lord? Right? It's not about us. It's all about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That God helps people to deal with difficulty by causing them to focus on the ease that they've experienced. You know, one of my friends, I visited him when he was dying of ALS. And don't be shocked by me saying he was dying. We're all dying. Just as we describe ourselves as living, we could similarly describe ourselves as dying right now. But he had been diagnosed with ALS. And at this time, it was very difficult for him to speak, and I was leaning in, trying to listen to him. And he said, even now, with everything that is happening to me, losing the ability to control my most basic bodily functions, I don't ask, why me? He says, you know why? Because when I was waking up every day in good health, financially secure, living in relative security, food abundant, relationships fulfilling, I never said, why me? See, when we're in ni'mah, we never say, why me? Some people woke up today in war-torn countries. You woke up today in relative security. Why you? Some people woke up today with debilitating illnesses. You woke up in probably fairly good health. Why you? Some people woke up today in poverty. You woke up today financially secure. Why you? No, in fact, when you experience blessing, you should say, why me? Why me? All of these people that are more worthy than I am of the blessings I enjoy, why me? And when you experience fitna, don't say why me, say only you. Only you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't say why me, say only you. You only need patience in two circumstances. Let me say that one more time. There are only two circumstances in which a person needs patience. Either A, you want something you don't have, so you have to be patient. Everybody who's single knows what I'm talking about. You want something, but you don't have it. Or B, you have something you don't want, so you have to be patient. Everybody who's married knows I'm just kidding. I love my wife, I'm just kidding. Marriage gets tense at times. It gets tense at times. But these are the only two circumstances that require patience. You want something you don't have, or you have something you don't want. And God says in that circumstance, the iwad, the alternative to having what you want, or being rid of what you don't want, is that you have Allah. La hijaba bayn Allah wa bayn al-mazloom. There is no barrier between God and the one that is afflicted, the one that is oppressed. This is one of the great wisdoms of Surah Yusuf. Yusuf experienced almost every tragedy that one could imagine. From being estranged from his father, to being betrayed by his brothers, to being sold into slavery, losing his human agency, to being sexually assaulted, to being imprisoned in spite of his known innocence, to being forgotten by his fellow inmates, left to languish in prison, to being liberated from prison and asked to deliver the society that had betrayed him. Everything you can imagine. And in all of it, he saw Allah, 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 Allah. This is how we have to strive to be. That in everything we experience, every hardship, every difficulty, we see Allah. And I said, what's the difference between sadness and depression? Because all of us experience sadness. She said, depression is sadness that appears terminal to the person that is saddened. See, when we become sad, we recognize that this is a state of the heart that will be followed by another state of the heart. إِنَّمَا الْعُسْرِ يُسْرٌ. There's usr, there will be yusr. There's difficulty, there will be ease. You know that as you experience sadness. I'm hurt now, but I'll get over this. She said, someone in a state of clinical depression does not see that light. I'm sad, and I'm always going to be like this. I cannot see my way out of this. And this is the reason that some of them even contemplate self-harm. I can't see my way out of this. And we have to remember, for the believer, there is always light. There is always light. There is always light in patience. There is always light in just holding on. There is always light in tawakkul. There is always light in tafweedul amr ila Allah, consigning the affair to Allah.
Right? If something good happens, it's great. If something bad happens, it's growth. And we see this in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a lot of discussion now about the political state of the ummah, and we bemoan the loss of the khilafas, and we wish we had the strength that Muslims had in the past. And we look at these situations like Sudan and Gaza, and we think, if we had the strength that we had in the past, this wouldn't be happening. If you go back 100 years now, just 100 years ago was when we had the last Khalifa. If If you go back to 1910, at that time the Muslim population of the world was 10% of the global population. And then we lose the Khalifa. We lose all political and military control over pretty much the whole Muslim world. We enter this century of oppression, century of humiliation, and we feel like we're in the worst state we've ever been in today. But after 100 years of being in this seemingly negative situation, today the Muslim Ummah is 25% of the global population. We only grew in that time of oppression, in this time of chaos, leaderlessness. We only grew, we only expanded. Muslims went from being in a couple of regions of the world to being in every part of the world. Today, there is not a country in the world where you will not be able to go and comfortably find a mosque somewhere nearby you. Anywhere in the world. We've grown to every part of the world. We've more than doubled in size. That's what, 150% growth, I think? I'm not good at math. In 100 years. You know, think about that. It took 1,300 years to go from 0% of the world's population to 10% of the world's population. 1,300 years. And then it took 100 years to go from 10% of the world's population to 25% of the world's population. The Muslim Ummah is anti-fragile. And Islam creates anti-fragile individuals by this process, by telling us that hardship and ease, they come together.